President Trump and I agree on probably a lot of things. One thing we agreed on over the last 7-8 years is that every day you get a scorecard about how our economy and how consumers and business leaders feel, business people of all sizes, big and small businesses, how they feel about the day, how they feel about what happened that day. And we generally look to our equity markets to get some sense of that. We've lost $7 trillion in 3 trading days. It was down as much as $10 trillion, up a little bit today as I was on with Dana in the morning, and then on the show this morning, and then down as the day went on. 2, we have economists at some of the biggest financial institutions in the country have now raised their recession risk, or she said the risk that the country will be plunged into a recession. And they all think it's because it's a self-inflicted wound. Now let's think about the positive things the president wants to do with what he's doing here. He wants to bring 2 things, I think, and sometimes it's unclear what the destination is. He sometimes says he wants 0 tariffs from all these countries. I saw Ms. Navarro on this morning saying even if we get 0 tariffs, there are other things we want from the countries as well. It's odd to hear that because some of these countries we talk about selling things to, Jesse, they're very small countries. We've suggested that we want to sell more beef to Honduras. Honduras has a $75 billion GDP. If they spent all of their GDP on us, it wouldn't make a dent in what we're doing. Don't get me wrong, I love $75 billion, but when you've lost $7 trillion, it seems to me to be a weird trade-off. I'm not that great at math, but that's not a winning.
Motif did that.
What's up? It's your boy Darren Dickinson for neighborhood news, good news neighbors, hood news neighbors. I mean, I don't know what that classifies as. I mean, hey, listen, first of all, you guys can watch later in the show the full clip from Fox News. It is wild to see them going at it like that. I mean, it wasn't even like a at it back and forth. He gave him a read about what's really popping off. Hey, wait, before I get too deep in the show, I want to say happy birthday to my daughter, Kendall, baby K. She turned 11 this week. I'm here working for you guys. No, kidding. But I'm also I'm kind of serious, but I'm also, as you guys know, in Little Rock, taking care of some family business, which she's aware of. But I want to make sure that I send her love from me to you, baby girl. You know what it is. Because she watches the show. How about this, bro? I didn't even know, because she does watch stuff on YouTube, and I guess she watches Daddy's show. So I'm dedicating this episode to my baby girl. And while we on the subject of family, Doug Christie and Jackie Christie. Oh, wait, watch this.
Voice recordings, text messages, proof that Jackie had been setting this up for over a year. She told me to start collecting dirt on Doug months before she even mentioned divorce, Melissa revealed. She wanted to make sure she'd get every dime she could and ruin his career while she was at it. Jackie's mouth dropped open. That's a lie. She's making this up. But Doug's lawyer, he was ready. Doug's lawyer didn't waste a second. He pulled out phone records, proof that Jackie had been in constant contact with private investigators, financial advisors, and even reporters. She wasn't just plotting. She was feeding them false stories to drag Doug's name through the mud. Right before her eyes, everything she built was crumbling. Doug sat back, watching her closely, his expression unreadable. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Just days ago, folks believed Jackie was just fighting for what was hers. But now, the truth was painting a whole different picture. And Doug, he wasn't done yet. Doug's lawyer let Melissa's words sink in. Jackie sat there, frozen, her mind racing for a way out. But before she could even open her mouth, Doug finally spoke. "The moment y'all been waiting for," he said. He reached into his briefcase, pulled out a thick folder, and placed it on the table with a thud. "This," Doug said, his voice steady, "is the real truth about Jackie's finances." Jackie's eyes went wide with panic. She expected Doug to fight back, but she never thought he'd uncover all this. Doug's lawyer cracked open the file and handed the documents to the judge. "Your Honor, these records prove Jackie wasn't just hiding millions from Doug, she was hiding it from the court too." Even Jackie's own lawyer looked blindsided. The judge adjusted his glasses, flipping through the pages. The courtroom went dead silent as the truth spilled out. Hidden offshore accounts, secret real estate deals, falsified tax records, Jackie's carefully crafted reputation, gone. She shook her head. "This ain't real. This is a setup." But even her own lawyer was was already scanning the documents, his face shifting from shock to understanding. He leaned toward her, whispering something low. But Jackie, she wasn't listening. She snatched the papers, flipping through them like she could somehow rewrite reality. But there was no rewriting this. Doug exhaled, settling back in his chair, arms crossed. "I knew you were ruthless, Jackie," he said, "but I never thought you'd take it this far." His voice was calm, but the weight behind it was heavy. "You tried to ruin me, tear down my name, take everything I spent years building, and for what? Greed? Revenge?"
This is why, listen, I would have never in a million years, I'm not saying I'm not friends with them, I'm nothing like that, but we're in the same circles. Hollywood is a small world, right? And so, for everybody knows, Doug Christie and Jackie Christie have been like the mega couple. She traveled with them every game. He would do the whole thing, and we all thought it was weird, like, kind of possessive, kind of controlling. But hey, if he liked it, we liked him. To see this, mind completely blown. I mean, LA is just being rocked between the big U and the hood level Hollywood, all the way up to the Doug Christie and oh my God, this is completely insane. It's me watching everything. You can't make this stuff up. It's unbelievable, unconceivable that this couple would be going through this. Wait, check this out. Watch this.
Tried to ruin me, tear down my name, take everything I spent years building, and for what? Greed? Revenge? He shook his head slowly. "All you had to do was walk away with some dignity, but you chose war." His eyes locked onto hers. And now, he let the silence stretch, watching her squirm. "Here we are." Melissa sat down, her hands still shaking. She had been loyal to Jackie for years, covered for her, lied for her, even helped spread rumors. But today, she had finally drawn the line. The judge cleared his throat, his gaze locking onto Jackie. "This is serious evidence," he said, his voice firm. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Jackie swallowed hard. Her mind raced, searching for a way out. But for the first time, no words came. The media scribbled furiously in their notebooks. Cameras flashed. This case was about to be the biggest headline of the year. The woman who once played the heartbroken wife, fighting for justice, was now exposed as nothing but a fraud. Jackie's lawyer stood, his voice tight. "Your Honor, we request a short recess." "Denied," the judge snapped. "We will proceed." Doug's lawyer wasted no time. "Not only did Jackie hide money," he said smoothly, "but she also attempted to bribe key witnesses." Jackie's breath hitched. "We have testimony," he continued, "from people she approached, offering cash for false statements against Doug." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Then, a man stood up from the audience. He cleared his throat. "Your Honor, my name is Victor Harris," he said, his voice steady. "I was Jackie's financial advisor." Jackie's head snapped toward him, her eyes wide. Victor glanced at her, then turned back to the judge. "I was instructed to move large sums of money into hidden accounts," he admitted. "Later, that money was used to pay off certain people. I have banking records to prove it." A hush fell over the courtroom. Jackie's lawyer exhaled heavily, rubbing his temples. It was over. They all knew it. Jackie had spent over a year planning the perfect betrayal. She was sure she'd win, but she underestimated Doug. She counted on people believing her lies. But in the end, the truth spoke louder. The judge let out a long sigh. "This is very serious," he said. "With all this evidence, I am making my decision now." Jackie's breath caught. "Your request for increased alimony? Denied?" Her stomach dropped. "Furthermore, your assets will be frozen pending further investigation into financial fraud." The courtroom erupted. Jackie snapped. "You cannot do this to me," she screamed, leaping to her feet. Her eyes locked onto Doug. Desperation cracked through her voice. "Doug, please, let's talk. We can work this out," Jackie pleaded, her voice desperate. Doug turned, his expression unreadable. "Work it out? Like how you talk to the press about me? Like how you talk to investigators behind my back?" He shook his head. "Nah, Jackie, we way past talking." The bailiff stepped forward. Jackie hesitated, then slowly sank back into her seat. The power she once held, gone. The lies she built, shattered, exposed in front of everyone. Melissa glanced away.
Did you hear the judge? Jackie Christie could end up catching a case behind this, bro. This ain't no game. It don't get no more real than this. And so, I don't understand why there's some things that's happening just in our media, but it's big news. And I guess maybe if TMZ don't cover it, we're not supposed to hear about it, even talk about it. I mean, it's talked about all over the internet, right? I want to shout out to, you see her name in the comments, you see her hand in the comments, the sister who's narrating, and I just saw the clips, took it from, and posted it on social, because I know these people, right? And I know there's people who understand what was really going on with them behind the scenes. Now, why Jackie did it, I don't know if she did it for clout, for press, but I mean between Jackie Christie and Big U and just the people around all this, the clout chasing, it's unbelievable. And then when it gets called out, they shocked like they didn't know, like, oh my God, I wasn't even sure what was going on. You can't make this stuff up. You know, and I just want to listen, man. I want to shout out to all the content creators out there that's, you know, hitting stuff hard. For people who posted and finding this stuff and posting it. And then, you know, also for people who are really into the whole conversation about what's happening with Donald Trump and the political scene, you know, if you don't want to watch Fox News, you can always watch Areva Martin. She's streaming on SoCal IPTV. And we want to give another special shout out to Areva, man. Congratulations on being on Sherri Shepard. Y'all know we're a big Sherri fan around here. The Sherri Shepard. Shout out to the homeboy, John Murray over there, holding it down. EPing with her, you know what I mean? They're a tag team, like one deploy empowered, activate, right? But Areva was on a couple days ago. Big honor for her work with the Special Needs Network. You know, guys, make sure you check out Areva Martin's show. Matter of fact, check this clip out.
Thank you for coming. I need you to come back and talk.
Thank you for having me.
About this some more in Special Needs Network.
Thank you.
You know, it's just so funny because I love you so much, Areva, because you do so much for the autism community and you put a lot of your life on hold for this. And I reached out to my friends at Five Below since they are the ultimate store for kids and they got the best sensory toys and games for everybody at unbeatable prices and they got a surprise for you. So bring that on in for Areva. You can use this at your camp. You can use this at the camp that the kids
so
come
much.
to.
Yes, we can't wait for Jeffrey to come back. You and Jeffrey are part of the Special Needs Network family forever.
Thank you.
Because community is so important, and we are building that community. And thank you for helping us build that community, not just in California, but across the country.
Well, you built his self-esteem he was a camp counselor, and his self-esteem just went out, you know, definitely helping. And I love that your camp is free.
It's free
for the
parents,
kids.
yes.
But
Kids.
Areva, that's not all. They also, Five Below is also giving the Special Needs Network $10,000. Got $10,000 for you, mommy, that we wanted to. Because I am just so blown away, like at the camp, you created a free program for kids and the parents just kept saying, I can go to work and I can trust that my child will be okay during the summer. That just touched my heart so much. So thank you, Areva. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, Areva's show, she talking about everything, punching everybody in the mouth, you be punching them out. You know, make sure you check out on SoCal IPTV. And we love the fact that, you know, Sherri honored her and celebrated her for her work with the Special Needs Network and what she does. You got to get to watch those full clips later in the show, as well as any clips you see on the show. If we only show you partial during the show, you get to see the full clip after these segments. You know, I mean, first of all, you guys got to see this. This is so adorable. Look, check this out. This is Areva on the Sherri show.
Some form of Christian nationalism and of kind of Christian supremacy and of white nationalism and white supremacy have been, you know, here in these yet to be United States since the founding and before the founding of the nation, with the genocide of First Nations, indigenous people, and with U.S. chattel slavery and you know, a kind of a slave holder religion that, you know, created a whole Bible. That took out the prophets, that took out the story of the Exodus, that took out Jesus's inaugural sermon, and so there are long and deep roots of kind of a religiosity, a Christianity that is on the side of the status quo and those in power, and being used against people of color and poor people and women, but it also is important for us to see, especially those images we saw on January 6th, when folks were, rioting in the Capitol, and had those gallows, had those crosses, were really covering themselves in religiosity and in Christianity, that there is this kind of new manifestation of white Christian nationalism that, he has never been in the position it is right now. I mean, like what folks will say, with Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, the third most powerful position in this country, I mean, is a self-proclaimed Christian nationalist, and someone who, has political and ideological beliefs that are very damaging and very extreme.
Yeah, man. So it was really great, and it also speaks to the fact that we need our own spaces like this to be able to make sure that we're celebrating the holidays our own. And so it's your boy Darren Nickerson, outside the window on the world from Community Bakery in downtown with Soma, South on Main. We'll be back. Here, there's always concern if y'all can hear it or not, but the crew got the band and the demo playing in the back. A new way for people to work together is called individual collectivism.
That's a wonderful thing, but we're here to talk about Bitcoin.
But what I'm saying is
so we love to hear that, D. But we're here to talk about Bitcoin.
What I'm trying to
because we got to be. If it's not a Bitcoin, it's a coin. So
no, the coin is it's not ours. Is not a coin that's tradable. It's not a coin in that sense.
We're here. We would love to hear you say that, but we're here to talk about Bitcoin.
We're here to talk about God bless Bitcoin.
Okay.
Right? And
let God bless Bitcoin.
People
we will not be on this. We will not be on this while you talk about another cryptocurrency. Trust me.
I love you, John. That's why I love you, John. And all of this is live in the show. So
I know.
What's great about this is that So what's your name? What you doing in the film?
Hi, I'm Kelly Estes, and I am lead executive producer in the film.
And I'm Brian Estes. I'm the co-lead executive producer in the film. And they were both writers on the film, too.
Yeah.
And I'm John Sally, and I'm tall in the film.
Great. Okay, listen, first and foremost, the film is incredible. So we are currently, for those of you guys who don't know, we're currently streaming God Bless Bitcoin on Little Rock IPTV, SoCal IPTV, and Inglewood IPTV. For you guys who don't know, you can just add a .com. And so, one, I really want to know, first and foremost, Brian, why did you do this film? Like, there's such a fascination with Bitcoin. I mean, I think there's a ton of people who even own Bitcoin but have no idea why they own it, right? So why'd you do this film?
Yeah, I read a book 4 years ago called Thank God for Bitcoin. And it talked about the Christian views of our monetary system and how they intersect with Bitcoin. And I just got curious about what the other religions say about monetary systems, money, and Bitcoin. And so I just took a deep dive into those. And after I satisfied my curiosity, I just had this urge to tell the story of what I learned. And I've never made a movie or written a book or anything like that. And so really what I did was I just ignored it for about a year, and the voice kept getting louder and louder. And finally I went to Kelly and asked her if she would help me, get this story out. And we decided to turn it into a movie called God Bless Bitcoin.
And so Kelly, obviously, there's a lot of, and just for a little bit of perspective and background, I'm a Christian, and I taught high school, Sunday school at an AME church for 30 years almost, or something like that, maybe. I'm still very active in, you go on some of my social media, I post, scriptures and do my own interpretations and stuff. And so
there are a lot of people in the faith world who may think anything money focused is automatically thought as demonic, right? And then technology and this included, so were there any fears or worries just even about approaching this from a faith perspective?
I think for me, I'm also a teacher. I've been in education for 32 years, and so I relate to you that way. And I've also taught in Christian schools. So I think my biggest concern was that people would think that we were saying that God endorses Bitcoin or God blesses Bitcoin. And that's not the case at all. What we're saying is let's approach money and discussing money and our financial systems from a different perspective. What do all the sacred scriptures around the world have to say about how we are to interact with each other through our financial system? And let's see if what we are using right now adheres to those mandates. Could Bitcoin maybe be a different solution that would adhere better? And that's sort of how we approached the film, was to examine financial systems and money through a religious lens. In no way have we ever said that, this is what God wants us to use, because, I'm a tiny little human and I have no idea what the big man wants us to do. I just know that if I follow the Bible and I try to live and treat people well, that I'm on the right track. But I have no idea what God says we should or shouldn't, what money we should or shouldn't use. I just know what he says about how we are to interact with each other, which is you treat each other fairly. You don't steal, you don't lie, you don't conduct war. And so when we look at, we're to be fruitful and multiply, does our current financial system allow for those mandates, yes or no? And so when we examined it, we decided probably it doesn't do a very good job, but Bitcoin might be a better solution to fulfill those mandates. So that's kind of how we approach the film.
Another thing that was interesting too, and I didn't know this at the time, but when we interviewed Dr. Bach at the Dallas Theological Seminary, he tell us that the number one subject in the Bible is about money. Right. And I was like, well, I didn't know that, but
it's mentioned.
Yeah,
most.
but it's
it is quite a recurring theme, of money and wealth in the Bible. And so, my question to you, John, along those lines, obviously having been a college athlete prior to the NIL era, right? And then going into the professional world and then transitioning there from entertainment. You've had a lot of contracts. You've dealt with a lot of money, right? Why did you participate in this film?
I was at the Bitcoin conference 2019, and I was at one time just a guest. And I said, I thought it was a great idea and I want in. And Brian said, okay, you can have in, what's that mean? And, it's to be involved. And so when to help navigate and move the process of making this wonderful documentary, his producer and the cinematographer was fabulous. But then I get to meet Brian at an event. I don't like saying that name, Brian. No, it was a Swan event, and then I had an opportunity to be an executive producer along with him, helping do certain things with the film. The thing that got me about Brian and his wonderful wife is they were like, we're making this about God bless Bitcoin. And me and everyone else was like, oh my God, I can't wait to call Ted at Netflix. And I can't wait to go over to my friend at Amazon Prime. And Brian's wife said, yeah, we're going to put it out. We're just going to put it out. And it's going to be a help to people. You usually don't, and I know it costs some money to shoot this. You usually don't just say, hey, we're going to put it on a .com so people can understand. And this will be our gift to the world. You don't really hear that a lot. You you run into people who say they want to do good things, but everybody is trying to make a buck. We live in America. That's how we're designed. And I don't know if he made a buck, but I know he spent some bucks. So it changed my attitude about him and his wife, he and his wife. Not that I had a bad attitude. It's just that I'm a Black man living in a capitalistic world. And usually when you hear people who have money to put it in, they want something back. They're doing it for themselves and they're acting like they're doing it for the public. I was totally wrong about them. I've been saying it to a couple people. I was like, I hadn't figured him out yet, but I figured him out. He's one of the good guys. She's one of the good ones. That's why they were blessed to be around each other. And anytime they say, hey, we need you to do an interview here or be there, I'm 5 minutes early. Like I was 5 minutes early for this, since you were taking too long.
No, John, I want to say this, right? Because there are a couple things you touched on. I definitely want to pick up on the fact that, and make sure we say this again, that this movie is streaming for free. You can stream it obviously on our platform for free, but it's also findable on YouTube and there are other platforms because since Brian wanted to be free, I want to make sure that you're not limited to watching it on our platform. If you put it in Google, you should find it, but definitely watch it on Little Rock or Inglewood or SoCal IPTV. But with that said, John, what's so interesting is that you were already either in the crypto blockchain space, but those words are kind of thrown about. So I like to use it to digital currency space. What brought you to the digital currency space?
The future. I feel as Black people, we were always considered either not human or second-class citizens.
Right.
And we get the bad part of everything. And this was one of the times in this modern era where we were able to find out at the same time what white folks were finding out. And I'm allowed to say that in this era.
Right.
I don't think my father would have been allowed to say that, or even my brothers who are older than me would have been allowed or been in the position to find things out at the same time. So I had started this thing called John Sally Crypto Show because I wanted to go in as a novice and talk to the experts about the blockchain. Right. And what cryptocurrency was. And while I was down at the Bitcoin conference, where I first met one of the producers for this film, I was in the whale room, and I remember this one guy scoffed at what I was saying. He was just, I don't know, and it sounds crazy the way I'm going to put it, but he was not a John Sally fan. He didn't care that. He just didn't feel me. This guy didn't feel me. And so I'm sitting there with these two athletes. One is an MMA fighter. One is a backup quarterback in the NFL. And the question was, what number do you think Bitcoin is going to get to? And we were at $46,000 at that time. I said, in the next 3 years, it'll be past 100. And this guy made such a sigh that people started laughing. And I said, okay, I would love to get everybody's number who's here now so you can kiss the ring later. I didn't say ring, but, I'm being respectful. And 4 years later, we're at $102,000 at one point. And I called the one guy that scoffed. He didn't pick up, so I sent him a text. I said, my ring is ready to be kissed. And he goes, okay, you were right. And I didn't need that, but my ego needed it. And I tried to take care of my ego, but that was the best I could do.
So Kelly, I have a question for you now, because you seem like the filmmaker in the group, right? Did you know it was going to be free in the beginning? And what was your take when Brian said he wants to give it away?
I think both of us felt the same way. So by way of background, I'm a teacher, but for the last 15 years, I've been working in high need, high achieving schools with students. So most of the students I work with, 95% of them have grown up in generational poverty, and all are minorities. And when I understood a long time ago that Bitcoin actually gave them a seat at the same table, like John said, at the same time, it became really important to me that we made this accessible to everybody. And Brian felt the same way. And I have to say, we had a lot of people in the Bitcoin community give and agree to do this movie for free. I know I appreciate the love you're sending my way, John Sally, but there were a lot of people who were with us on this movement. So I'm a teacher. Education should be free, right? And so I think that this is a really great way for people to get a basic knowledge of Bitcoin and what it can do. More importantly, what our current financial system has been doing to the wage earner. People are behind, they can't pay their bills, they're making choices between, I have students who make their choices between, am I going to eat or am I going to have electricity? Well, that's our current system. And unless you understand what that's doing to you, you almost think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I achieve? Why can't I keep up? Well, there's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with our system. And I hope this movie helps them see that and then sparks their curiosity so they continue to learn more. But it was really important to both of us that this be accessible to everybody with no barrier of entry.
And so, Brian, just picking up on that, like, what is your background? What? I mean, obviously, were you always in filmmaking? You always decided you want to make movies, or like what? I mean, I'm just saying, like, how did you?
Not at all. No.
Before this.
No. I was in traditional finance for 23 years. I was an institutional equity broker, and I was managing money for institutions. And then 11 years ago, I learned about Bitcoin, and I started building Bitcoin companies 11 years ago. And so, this is, like Kelly said, it's our gift back to the community. We want to educate people about, how unjust the financial system is, that we live in. And
not to cut you off, but I want to make sure we make this point very, very fine, right? Brian know a little something about money, y'all. He's getting real humble, right? He said he went from being in finance to setting up companies that. Okay, I'm sorry. I feel like I got to bring back my audience. Our audience is right. A lot of the same people that we want to kind of grasp this, right? And our show is called Neighborhood News, and I get out in the community. We got the neighborhood, and so and we have a range of folks. We have folks who are actually from Hollywood and sports entertainment, because I have a background in TV film, and obviously I've been a publicist and worked in music. But before that, I was in the Army. I was a database manager, assistant controller for the Army. Managed the largest database in the world. 19 was over the database for Forces Command during Operation Shield, that became Operation Desert Storm. War has a tendency to change. You wanted to be in the military, so I came home. But I was gonna be a tech genius, but it wasn't in the private sector. I did blockchain. I did the early iterations of it. And so it wasn't until around 2015, 2016 that I realized that this thing I had been hearing called Bitcoin from scammers in New York, where I heard it the first time, right? Guys who I knew were doing stuff just with money. And this was in maybe 90s, the first time I heard the term, but I stayed away from it. I'm like, hey, I don't want to deal with that.
No, you didn't hear Bitcoin. You heard crypto.
No, I heard Bitcoin. I heard the term Bitcoin. It may be early 2000s, but I'm saying it, but I definitely heard.
No, it was late. It was like 2008.
Yeah, but I'm
only reason I say that because I remember when I heard it, and it was at 0.00013, and the guy was like, "Yo, give me a."
So maybe my years are off, but it was like when I heard it. Was
like that's because you were in the Army and you got hit in the head with a shell. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, but it was around 75 cents. And then, but then once I looked back into it and I understood exactly what it was, I went to a couple of conferences and I sat there and I realized, like, number one, I don't know that it's going to actually end up where a lot of people think it's going to end up, but two, it's changing the world. And so our platform, Content Geyser, lives on a blockchain. We are actively engaging in helping creatives monetize their content and also take investments and trade and do things. But we're not trading it on the open market. We just use it as our own currency within our community. And then our community is able to then, if they want to trade on the open market, or if they want to just cash out in dollars and live their life. It's just a way to allow people to have a little more control and freedom over their content. But with that said, Brian, what I really want to understand is, what don't you think people understand still about Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion between Bitcoin and everything else that's out there. Okay, there's a big difference between Bitcoin and everything else. So the Trump administration just a few weeks ago announced what's called a Bitcoin strategic reserve. But then they also announced in that same executive order, there's a crypto stockpile. They're two separate things. The US government is keeping Bitcoin as its own classification by itself. The other things like XRP and Ethereum and Solana and all those other ones that are out there, they're going into the crypto stockpile. The only ones that can't be sold are Bitcoin. So it says in the executive order.
Why? This is important though. Why?
Because it's the future of money. It's the what eventually it becomes is the monetary layer of the earth.
I'm going to make it simpler. I'm going to make it a little bit simpler and a little bit finer for our audience, right? It is the only, all of these currencies are actual technologies that have not been proven.
Exactly.
It's the only one that's been
experiment.
It's the only one that's been implemented. It's the only one that actually went from a white paper and theory to application and implementation by users. Okay, keep going, Brian.
Yeah, and so the U.S. government has a strategic imperative to get as much Bitcoin as they can, because we need this not only for our financial future, but for our military future too. You're going to see military leaders of the United States come out over the next month or two, talk about how Bitcoin is needed as a cyber defense system. So we have characterized Bitcoin as money, but in reality, it's a cyber defense system that the military could use to defend our identities in cyberspace.
The military helped develop. We implemented early iterations of it back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the first country that realizes that Bitcoin has military significance will be the next superpower. And the U.S. military
and I want to make sure I break this down. Bitcoin as the technology on top of a technology is what they're implementing now. But encrypted data and the ability to transfer secure encrypted data has been in place since 87.
Right. So that's funny, not to cut you off, Brian, but right now there's a big thing about Vice President Vance talking over signal, things that should be what is it, classified, and they feel that he spoke over signal, when what you're saying, D, is that it should have been encrypted properly. Yes. And what Brian is saying is that is a way to encrypt through the blockchain, but through Bitcoin on the blockchain.
So Bitcoin provides it takes so much energy to create Bitcoin. The Bitcoin network constitutes 99.8% of all the electricity usage for what's called proof of work blockchains. And so that field of energy, to be able, if you put like something you want to protect behind that field of energy, you need the smallest unit of Bitcoin, which is called a Satoshi, to get in through that door. And so if you put that wall up in front of things you want to protect, it turns into a cyber defense system.
Yes.
And so we all think of Bitcoin as money, but what we will think about it in the future as is a cyber defense system. Just like we have an Air Force that protects.
And to break that down a little bit finer, the reason to cyber defense systems, that what that energy really consists of is, for lack of a better term, eyeballs that are verifying in real time, constantly, all the time, everything. So no bullshit gets through.
Right, and this isn't a new idea. Henry Ford came up with this idea 100 years ago. He wanted to buy the Muscle Shoals, Alabama, or is it Mississippi or Alabama? Muscle Shoals, Alabama electric plant, so they could create electric money 100 years ago. And the U.S. government wouldn't allow, Henry Ford and, to do that. And so the idea of having electric money, and that's all Bitcoin is, it takes a lot of electricity to create Bitcoin.
I'm sorry that you guys won't be able to see this on your screen, but our audience right now can actually see the coin that we developed. It's a blockchain. Basically, I took blockchain off platform, applied it to human interaction to create a new way for people to work together. It's called individual collectivism.
That's a wonderful thing, but we're here to talk about Bitcoin.
But what I'm saying is,
so we love to hear that, D. But we're here to talk about Bitcoin.
What I'm trying to
because we got to be. If it's not a Bitcoin, it's a coin. So
no, the coin is it's not ours. Is not a coin that's tradable. It's not a coin in that sense.
We're here. We would love to hear you say that, but we're here to talk about Bitcoin.
We're here to talk about God bless Bitcoin.
Okay. Right? And let's let God bless Bitcoin. We will not be on this. We will not be on this while you talk about another cryptocurrency. Trust me.
I love you, John. That's why I love you, John. And you know, all of this is live in the show. So
I know.
What's great about this is that what I'm really trying to make sure people understand is what Brian is saying and what he's done with this movie and what they're doing in terms of making it free is very much in the blockchain tradition of making everything transparent. Is really what I was trying to come around to, right? And the more transparency it is, because people don't understand the idea of blockchain, and that is a trustless system and what that means. And so I think having the ability to break all those little things down and then having something as amazing and as visually stunning as this movie is important. And so Kelly, help me understand like the history elements, and because there's I think it should be on the History Channel. I think it should be on PBS. It's one of those type, you know what I mean? And so what was your inspiration?
Really, the way I came in was, like Brian said earlier, through him. I have a master's degree in the teaching of writing. And so that's the kind of teaching I've been doing, is I've been helping students over the years tell their stories. Brian is a numbers guy, not a words guy. And so he came to me and he's like, Kelly, I have this idea. I want to explain what's wrong with our current system and how Bitcoin is an alternative. I have no idea what to do. I said, all right, give me everything you got. And then I just helped him, which is the hardest part, eliminate what couldn't go in this story. Because if you try to tell everything you know about Bitcoin, nobody's going to know what in the world you're talking about. And they would have checked out in 2 seconds. So the inspiration for the story is his. I'm the one who helped pull it from him and organize it so that people like you could say, wow, that was a great film. Which means I did my job and you understood and it spoke to you. So
yeah, we did 60 interviews all over the world. We had 75 hours of content and we had to get that down to 1.5 hours. So 8% of it got cut. So, or 95% of it got cut.
And because we are always one to celebrate and highlight creatives, your cinematographer, your editors, who are you want to highlight that because the movie looks incredible.
Yeah, so we hired Mihao. Mihao is an Emmy-nominated filmmaker, and so we hired him to walk us through this process. We had the story and the vision, and he's the one that showed us how to put it all together and did all the editing and pieced everything. So it's visually appealing, like you said. We used his team with the graphics, and it was just we went through every one of those animations and made sure they were correct and they look good, and and it was just it took a lot of time because and then we have to decide how much detail do we want to put in it, right? Like there's this little clip in there you'll see talking about the Medici family and double entry bookkeeping.
So we should part too. That's a big topic right now.
Yeah. So we show Leonardo da Vinci painting the Last Supper. Well, Leonardo da Vinci he's one of the inventors of double entry bookkeeping. So that's why we put him in there, right? He invented ledger technology, 400 years ago. So, it's just no one would know that, but we knew it. So
Yeah.
So I think that's what made the movie so great is that it picked up on themes and that if you've been watching anything on first of all, I'm a History Channel nut. So if you've been watching anything from ancient aliens to, to the Incas, right? You hit this soul center mass. It is unbelievable that you gave it away. That's what makes this story so great. Because there's no way you could have told this. I mean, there's somewhere they would have bought it. And then, so what I'd like to get from if you have any idea, how many people has seen the movie?
Yeah, it's in the millions. I mean, last time we looked across all the platforms, it was approaching 7 million people. And then
70 million.
No, seven.
7 million. Oh, okay. No,
Yeah.
I'm prophesizing. We're gonna get there.
And then we dubbed it in 7 different.
And how long has it been out?
8 months.
Yeah.
8
Not
months.
that-
That's incredible. You know how many movies today don't get 7 million people watching?
Yeah.
Look, get 1 million people to watch it, right?
And we dubbed it in 7 different languages. So it's in Hindi, Mandarin, Spanish, French, Russian, Arabic, Portuguese. So 85% of the world could watch the movie in their native language.
So what we're going to do, number one, is that we are streaming the film. We are going to use this now to do an entire promotions campaign around the film because we think it's very important. We also are going to try to figure out some other, because there are some events and activations that we're going to be doing just around digital currency and understanding digital money. And we are always about promoting God. So you guys kind of check all the boxes for us. And more importantly, we think it's important that we check back in and check back in and check back in because obviously, we're a news show, we're an entertainment show. And we want to make sure that nobody else sneaks in and acts like they were there when we were there first, right? I'm pretty sure you've got some great media, but what we're going to do with you guys is really make sure that some people who wouldn't ordinarily watch this, right? And maybe some communities that aren't necessarily following Bitcoin but need to be, get a chance to see this.
Well, we appreciate all your help. I mean, that's great.
Cannot thank you enough for that.
I mean, you guys have dumped a lot of money into this. I'm telling you guys know how much movies cost. Movies are not cheap. When you watch this movie, it was not cheap. They spent a lot of money. They spent a lot of time, a lot of sleepless nights. We got a lot of filmmakers, a lot of creatives on here. You know what I mean? We got to be real and honest about what this is. And then the decision to make it free, it's unheard of. God bless.
You said when I told him about the movie, he said, "What?" and I that's all he said. He said he was like, "What?" And I go, "Yeah, it's godblessbitcoin.com." And he was like, and then I sent it to Cliff. He was like, what are you doing, John? I gotta have this. I said, "Yeah, we're on a media talk." I was playing it back. I knew how good it was, and he was like, "Oh my God." And that's when he got in touch with the powers that be, and he wanted me. What did he do? I said April. He was like, "No, I can't do it April. I got to do it right now." I was like, "Well, I might not be able to." He said, "I got to get it." So, we really appreciate you, and I let them know now in front of them. He was so excited about this movie that he stopped what he was doing when I sent him the link and watched the entire movie. And then hit me back after and was like, "Yo, we got to have this. We got to have." I said, "Yeah, you can have it on there." He was like, "Just like that." I was like, "Yeah, it's free." He could not believe. Got to be something. I was like, "No, they want to educate." I'm telling you, I when I first met him, I'm thinking one thing because the people around me are telling me one thing about Brian, and then I see how beautiful Kelly is, and I go, "Man, the generosity of beautiful women never cease to amaze me."
And you might need to get glasses. I'm getting old.
And then when they said, "Yeah, I'm going to release it for free," I said, it got to be a catch. The catch was you only a few times in a lifetime do you get people that give when needed, and so I'm happy to know that.
It was the last minute call.
I'm sorry, Brian, not to cut you off, because I want to make sure that we say this, right? In this time, right, when people are so conscious of their brand and they are able to monetize their brand, you know, just to say, hey, I'll lend you my name for X amount of dollars, and you'll only have it for this amount of time. As a publicist who have launched films and shows for networks, right? And those who know me, you guys know the things I've launched. And I know how important it is to be able to have a strong name that media will pay attention to. That you can have a great movie. And I've worked on a lot of great movies, but if you didn't have that right person or that right hook, and I think God Bless Bitcoin, the title is good enough to get people to watch it. But sometimes I know how Hollywood media is. I know how mainstream press can be. And they were like, who's in it and who's attached to it? And, you know, and especially trades and that kind of thing. And so for a John Sally, right? And you guys, you know, and I don't want to blow past this because a lot of people are going to say, okay, John Sally. Right. Well, John Sally was a superstar college player, superstar high school player, superstar college player, probably in his college Hall of Fame. Went on to the NBA, bad boy, multiple rings, Laker. You know what I mean? I'm a diehard Laker fan, so salute to John. He brought us some rings too. And then went on from that to become an on-air personality, best damn sports show, period. It's not a small thing.
No.
The fact that John was on board for y'all give away for free. That's fine.
I ain't gonna say I was on board for that, right, Brian? but I learned in my years that, you know what, sometimes it's I've never won a championship by myself. I've always was on a good team. And sometimes, you know, when I got to Detroit, I was a scorer in college. He told me, I need you to block shots, rebound, and play defense. And we won. So when Brian and Kelly say, this is what we're going to do, you know what? If you feel you're on the right team to win, you're going to win. And it's going to come back tenfold to Brian and Kelly. It's going to come back tenfold because that's how energy works. That's how God works. That's how the universe works.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to put a pin in it, you guys. So we will be checking back in with Brian, Kelly. John, you know we're going to be tapping in with you consistently. And then you guys will be coming with some really great things and great opportunities for us to get with them and meet them in person, right? I think we need to be in studio or be somewhere and really have a great conversation and lunch and eat and bring folks down, right? Yeah. And so
why don't you take us to In-N-Out Burger?
Yeah. Out there, we got to have some In-N-Out.
So In-N-Out Burger where we
definitely.
Yeah, they want to come to California. They want some In-N-Out Burger.
That's right. First thing off that plane, get me to In-N-Out.
You know, I've never had an In-N-Out Burger.
Oh,
John, don't say that out loud. Laker,
I'm a vegan.
You said out loud for
I'm a vegan.
fans?
Even when I wasn't a vegan and I was eating burgers.
He's vegan. He gets a vegan.
I couldn't wait. They had me waiting online. And I was like, don't you know who I think I am?
John, as a publicist, John, stop it.
I said, don't you know who I think I am? Why am I waiting online? And an hour and 10 minutes later.
Hey, we got to wrap this.
Okay,
bye. Cut you guys
we'll go to In-N-Out Burger.
We'll go to In-N-Out.
You can get some fries.
Right.
No. They got a vegan burger there now. But
oh, okay. All right.
I'll check it out.
And I don't want this to cut you guys off, but it will. And so I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then I'm gonna
GodBlessBitcoin.com.
America, welcome to IPTV. Motif did that.